Hello, hello. And we are live almost in the exact time we scheduled. So, hello, please, if you are here, if you're watching, if you are in the chat, please say hello. Tell me that you can listen to me. Tell me about the audio. Let's talk. This is the Nerd Talk. And I just remember that I usually watch the Star Talk with Neil deGrasse Tyson. So I'm pretending to be an expert in the field of nerdness. So please tell me in the chat. Can you listen to me? Do you have good audio? Say hello, hello. I don't see. Okay, hi. Parallel music. Hi, audio good. George Carr, nice. Where are you guys? Where are you so you can talk to me from all the parts of the world? Okay, audio good. This first time, the first minutes of the lives is always, what should I say? What should I talk? Because I'm here talking by myself, and hopefully there's someone in the other side that can listen to me. Hey, George. SoCal, Southern California. Cool. Okay, guys, so please introduce you in the chat, and I'll make here a quick introduction about what we're going to have today. It has been some time. We don't do any live stream, and it's something that I like a lot, and it's an opportunity to talk with people, to experts in their fields, or crazy people that decided to invent a new kind of instrument and have a lot to share. I made a video a couple weeks ago about the 2024 MIDI Awards. And the MIDI Awards, they award people in the commercial industry, hardware, commercial instrument, commercial hardware instrument, non-commercial hardware instrument, software, and installations. So basically, new instruments, new software in the commercial and non-commercial fields. Okay? And today I'm going to talk with Pascal, also known as Live. And he was one of the finalists of the 2024 MIDI Awards. So I'm really happy to talk with him. Hopefully we can talk with other contestants too. And so if you invented an instrument, if you invented a software, if you are a creator in the music field, industry, art, you merge music with technology, and you'd like to share something, please talk with me, send me an email, a WhatsApp, let's talk and do a Nerds Talk here so you can share and we can learn from you too. I'm really excited to talk with Pascal. We talked a little bit yesterday, so there's a lot to learn today. And so I'm going to switch. We are going to talk through Zoom, and I'm going to switch to our chat room so you can listen to Pascal. Tell me about the audio. Just let me make sure I have everything here set up. And okay. Hello, Pascal. Can you hear me?
Hi. Yeah, I hear you.
Okay, perfect. So first, thank you so much for being here.
Thanks for having me.
Yes, I really appreciate the live box. We talked a little bit yesterday. I didn't have much idea about what it can do, and it can do way more than I thought. And I'm really excited to hear what you have to talk about it. So please introduce yourself. Tell a little bit about how, I know you came from music, but how you got into this product today. So welcome.
So hi everyone, thanks again for having me. A real pleasure to be here and talk about this project. Like you told, I am a musician, mostly, liking to compose music. But at some point, I better do live performance. And at some point, I decided to do a live performance fully hardware because it was fun and complex to do. And at some point in my endeavor, I reached a point I needed to make all my hardware well communicate together. And of course, MIDI is here to do that. But it was a kind of pain because I wanted to be very fast in configuring the MIDI chain. So yeah, I was expecting to find somewhere a box, a MIDI router that would help me make my machines communicate together in a proper way. But yeah, unfortunately, I didn't find one. So I decided a silly thing, creating my own. And it was 3 years ago. So yeah, I thought it would be much faster and easier, but no. Here we are today, still prototyping.
Yeah, once you said 3 years ago, I felt that in my heart because, yeah, there's a project I've been working on, I guess, for almost 3 years. It's this white PCB here is a project I have with a DJ, a British DJ, and he talked to me I don't usually make custom controllers anymore because it always take way so much time and we spend way so much more money than I thought. So I'm just working on my projects, but this is a project that I'm working with someone, and I thought it would take me like 6 months, and it's been around 3 years already.
Yeah, yeah.
So yeah, it takes a lot of time.
Yeah, definitely. So yeah, the thing we are talking about today is this thing. I don't know if you see it well. So this is the last version of it. I mean, it's the 52 iteration, I guess. So yeah,
52?
52, yeah, 52 iterations
Wow.
to reach this simple thing, rectangular, and but yeah, there was a lot of paths to do. I found yesterday. I thought I didn't have it, but this is the very first prototype I created with the help of a friend. So yeah, a lot of a route between the two.
Yeah, so before we dive deeper into the details, can you summarize for someone that has no idea what's going on here today? What is the Live Box? What it does? How is it different from other similar products?
Yeah. So the goal of this thing is to absolutely have a full control of every MIDI messages coming in. And when I mean full control is not only take a MIDI message and reroute it to another output. I mean full control is fully programmable. So you could take any value coming in and transform it to any value you want coming out. So yeah, the idea is you could apply mathematics functions to messages you coming in. You could control everything using math, or you could transform any type of message to another. For example, I could transform a key press on my keyboard to several program changes to send to all my machines. So that means using my keyboard, I would be able to transform my keyboard to a remote. And when clicking on one button in a special time, it will send multiple message to my machine to program change, and because I want to change the track I'm working in. But yeah, the limitation would be the imagination and the talent of the guy using the box and his way of programming it.
And
That's the basic idea.
okay, perfect. And when was the time that you thought, well, I need to make this? Or uh, when did you think that, oh, I'm not able to do something that I want to do and I can't find any other product? Can you tell us a practical example that you had in your live setup that you realized that you needed something that didn't exist yet?
Yes. So definitely it was because my hardware setup for my live performance was full hardware. And so
So,
if you create...
sorry,
Yeah.
so you're not using any DAW?
No, any DAW, no. No. I have an iPad, but not using it to sequence. It's only for granular synthesis or stuff like this because it is very practical to touch the screen. But no DAW. My main sequencer is the analog rhythm by Electron. So yeah, full hardware. It's by choice. It was fun to do that. It was complex, so that's why. But that means if you want to do that, you have to create a MIDI chain. And so that means every controller, every synth you have must at some point talk to the other. And so that's why you create this chain of MIDI controllers and machines. And so that means at some point you will need a box like this. I have plenty of them. You've got mergers, you've got splitters, because at some point some of your messages will go through a machine and perhaps will have an impact to this machine, but you don't want this machine to be impacted by this message. So you will use filters. You can select the type of messages you want to filter out of your chain. And so at some point I had dozens of these boxes inside of my setup. And as you can expect, when you multiply this kind of box in your setup, you multiply the risk of having a problem. And it was my case all the time. So it was a pain to configure. Too many boxes, too many cables. So I thought, why not having one box in the center of everything and enough powerful to be able to control everything coming in and everything coming out. So this was the basic idea. So I started to search this box, and one day there was something pretty cool. Perhaps some of...
Oh, Pascal, I think we lost your audio.
Is it coming back?
Yes, yes.
Sorry.
For a moment.
So at some point, Blocas created this box. You've got 4 inputs and 4 outputs, and you've got a software to configure it that use blocks that you are implementing like Legos. That was promising, but I found too much limitations in what I wanted this box to be able to do. For example, you can't do CZX with this box, which is a shame because CZX is a part of many old machines. I've got, for example, in my hardware, Access Virus, and it relies a lot of CZX messages. So yeah, basically, I'm too limited with this box, but it was a good start, a good starting point, and it was part of my influence to create the good one.
Nice. So
I don't know if it explains a little bit, but yeah, too much boxes, and at some point I wanted to have a central box controlling everything.
Yeah, perfect. And it's interesting how you're really solving a real life problem that I'm sure that's not only you. So I know you've been to some booths and events showing your prototypes. How was the reception of the public? Like, and you said it's 3 years in the making, so you talked a lot with other people, other musicians. What have you been hearing about this kind of issue that people have in their setups? What are and what were the inputs you got from the public? And what has changed since your first prototype and what you have now?
Yeah, so many things was addressed. So yeah, I was in the Super Booth 2023. It was an enormous experience because you've got so many geeks coming over there. So if I can summarize what they told me is that the first problem with my box is that no one seems to know that they need it. You see, so they face so many issues, and MIDI is a very old protocol because it was invented by the end of the 70s, and it never changed. We're talking about MIDI 2.0, but it's a coming thing. So yeah, they don't know that it was the box I created was possible. So this is the first thing. So at the beginning, I had to explain because every time someone was coming to my booth, it was told me, yeah, but I don't understand the need. What are you proposing? What is the value proposition? And when I showed an example, they told me, oh my God, I want 4 of them. So you see, so it opens the possibilities to better control, especially the old machines, because now the new ones, you have a USB over MIDI, and it's faster, and you can do more. But especially if you want to mix the old machines with the new ones, my machine was well received. So basically, the very first prototype I showed at the Super Booth was this one. It was made using a kit you can find on the internet. It was not my PCB. So you've got normal DINs, 5 DINs input and 5 DIN output. And even me using it, it was cool to have DINs. But if you want to do more today, you have to take into account the jack TRS, because you can place more in a very little space. So most of the people told me that they would prefer to have jack TRS. So that's why I made it for the last version. The other thing they told me is that USB host should be by default. So I had to add the USB host. And the Blockcast MIDI Hub I showed you before, they don't have USB host also. So adding USB host would multiply the number of devices you can plug to this box. So with my last firmware, I can now plug 10 controllers and 10 cents using USB host. So it's expand a lot. And the other thing that they requested me was to have this button in front to be able to change presets. So I didn't think about it. It's obvious, but I didn't think about it. Also, they requested to have some lights in front of the panel to check that everything is working. So to see how your MIDI messages are moving from input to output. And the last thing, they asked that it was rackable. So it's less than 1 unit. The height is less than 1 unit. And you can stack 4 of them in 1 unit in a rack. And so that means you can serialize them and having 40 inputs and 40 outputs. So yeah, a beast to control all the machine of your studio, in fact. So this is the result of every feedbacks people gave me. And some of them are obvious, but when you are creating stuff, you are your head in front of it, but you don't especially see the needs for everyone.
And about this iteration process and the feedback, all this feedback you got in the booth, or are you sending units to people to test, or you're talking to friends? How are you working with that?
I didn't send any for now, but I hope I will start doing it next year. But for the beginning, it was friends, geeks like me. There is a friend that helped me creating my prototype, because without him, I would never take the risk to start. Like I explained to you yesterday, he told me, no, you will see it's easy. You should go. And of course, he lied. It was not easy. But yeah, he pushed me to do that. So he's plenty of very good feedbacks on the proper way to do things. And I went to some booths and I went to some events discussing about my box. And every time I take some feedbacks over there. So, but yeah, next year I hope to be able to send some prototypes and starting to have some internal feedbacks because of the user using it internally in that project.
Okay, just a technical question, just to clarify to some students and people that are watching, because in the first prototypes you were using the 5-pin DIN connector, and then now you are using TRS. And it might be a little confusing because, okay, MIDI has 5 pins. How can I use a TRS that only uses 3 pins? So, yeah, and a matter of fact, MIDI doesn't use all the 5 pins, but can you explain briefly the difference between using a 5-pin DIN and a TRS connector?
There is absolutely no difference beside the size it takes and the fact that it is very problematic. It is when you plug a DIN, it stays very strongly on your machine. This is good, but if you want to change all the time, it's a pain. But there is absolutely no difference. I think that the DIN pin was selected by the pioneer of MIDI at some point because they thought that at some point they would require more. So that's why they took it, and they didn't want also cables to be mismatched. So they wanted to have a differentiator, but there is absolutely no need to have 5 pins since the very beginning of MIDI. So the only thing that could be a pain using the TRS is that when it was suggested, there were no consultation between the manufacturers, and some of them would use type A, some of them you would use type B. So at some point, you've got this discrepancy between the cables, which is a pain. So that was one of the feedbacks I had, and my friend helped me to make a circuit that is type A and type B compatible. So this is not a problem anymore. So yeah, this is the only thing that you would have to take in account. Most of the, if you can see now, most of the keyboards are slimmer and slimmer and slimmer, and that's why at some point the DIN pin was not something that was envisageable for the future. So that's why most of the machines you have right now are very thin, and so are using TRS because it's smaller.
Yeah. And yeah, that's a question I get a lot. And it's, for me, it was confusing at the beginning. So if we can do with 3 pins, why we are using a 5-pin connector? There's no great explanation for that. And
it was to be sure that at some point, if one day they want to add more, they were able to do that.
yeah. And so your device has 5 inputs and 5 outputs, correct?
Yeah.
And it is also a USB host. So tell me a little bit about how was the choice of the board, which microcontroller you are using, and if there's any reason you chose 5, could you use more, or there's a limitation? If you thought about using other kinds of boards, and what were the pros and cons?
Mm-hmm. So the microcontroller I chose is a Tinsy 4.1.
We lost your video.
Oh.
I can hear you, but I can't see you.
Mm-hmm.
You're back, yeah.
I'm back, right?
Yes.
Okay, sorry about that. What did I say? So, yeah, so I used Tinsy 4.1, which is a very powerful microcontroller.
I'm gonna type in the chat so people.
Yeah, so Tinsy 4.1 is a kind of Arduino clone. And what is cool with this is that it's very, very powerful, more than an Arduino. And but you can use all the libraries that Arduino is offering. So, which is one of the first things that is what is cool. This is also a choice by default because my friend knows a lot of about Tinsy. So it was the first choice because he told me, yeah, if you need any help, I can help on my side. And then when I checked, because there is one thing about my box that is very, very important because I gave me a lot of constraints. This is the fact that I wanted all my users to be able to code using Lua. And so I could definitely have a box having more inputs and more outputs, but Lua is a language that you interpret live. That means it is not compiled. So that means it will be having more inputs and more outputs would stress a little more the microcontroller. So that's why I wanted to stay at 5. And why 5? Because the very first kit I bought had 5. So I decided to stay on it because my firmware was already compatible with the 5 inputs. And adding USB host, you could potentially add every inputs and outputs you want. But as I said, I stressed a little bit my box, and 5 additional inputs and 5 additional outputs using USB host was the maximum as I could allow my box to deal with all the messages. You don't want the box to crash. If it's a central piece of your setup, yeah, that means if the box doesn't work, you don't have any setup anymore. So if I want it to be reliable, the stress test I made showed me that 10 inputs, 10 outputs is the maximum.
Okay, and just so people understand how Lua works, so the Arduino, how it usually works, or the Tinsy boards that you can program exactly like an Arduino, you have the IDE where you edit the code, and then every time you want to change the code in the Arduino, you have to go to the IDE, press that upload, wait a couple seconds, and then you have the new firmware installed. But the way Lua does, and I don't have any experience with Lua, but it's a scripting language that you don't have to type that upload button. Everything you do in real time happens in the board. So you don't need to wait, and you can see in real time. And what are the advantages? And I can see many, but is there any disadvantage? What happens if you type something wrong? What happens with the board?
This is the part of the software that I'm developing that is very important, because of course you can detect that there is a syntax error, for example. In my case, what I'm doing is I'm blocking the script for not even running, because I know it won't work. And in the software, I'm clearly indicating to you that there is an issue. So that means this script will never be triggered by the system. And so this is the easy one. That means you already know beforehand that your script won't work. But you can also have some other errors that are detected only when the script is running. I can catch that. And so if one of the scripts is perfectly written but has an issue, the script will try to run one time and then will be blocked because there is an error. And I will tell you that there is an error, and I can light a LED in red to tell you there is an issue over there. You should have a look on your code. And there is a messages explaining you what could be the issue with the line you typed. So these are the more trickier one. But definitely the system will know that there is an issue and will isolate your script for the box not to crash.
So you mentioned you are working with a friend. What is his or her part, and what is yours, and how did you come up with the idea of using Lua to work with the Tinsy? Because that's something I haven't seen before. I'm sure that's something that other people were doing, but I haven't seen. And how I know you can't say like now how do you use Lua with the Tinsy, because it's a huge thing. But can you explain a little bit of how Lua works with the Tinsy, and what's your role and your partner's role in the programming of the live box?
My friend is more an electronic engineer. He knows what components you have to choose. You have to, for example, to have the type A and type B compatible TRS inputs. He helped me to do that because he knows how the circuits should be put in place. He showed me how to solder. He showed me how to create the routes on your own PCB and stuff like this. So it is more helping me on the electronic aspect of it, because I'm already a programmer. So on that aspect, I do 100% of the thing, but it definitely helps me on the hardware side of it, and showing me, explain to me the difference between an input and an output using MIDI, what is an optocoupler. This was something new for me. So yeah, definitely on the electronic aspect of it. Regarding your question about Lua, I thought I tested a lot of different languages to pick that one, and Lua was the best one because it has a lot of advantages. It is mostly used in embarked machines, so it was made to do that. You can see also Lua a lot used in video games. Why? Because it is a very easy language to learn, and most of the programmers coding video games, they want to give to the artists a little bit of control on the game, but without having them to learn C and C++. So you see, the Lua language is on top of a compiled language that is more complex, like C++. So, like you explained in Arduino, you code in C, and you have to compile it. So the other advantage of Lua is that you don't have to compile it anymore. So it's an interpreted scripting language. So that means you don't have to compile it. So, and it was part of the constraints I had. I didn't want my users to have to all the time compile the firmware, submit it to the box, test it, and see that there is something wrong and start again. I wanted to clearly find something that you can test live while the box is still plugged in your setup. So that's why I chose Lua language, and also because mostly it's very, very easy language to learn. And I'm pretty sure most of you didn't program anything, but yeah, I made it so it is very, very easy to understand and very easy to update and very easy to code.
Interesting. And Pedro said in the chat that another option for scripting language is Python and MicroPython. Yes. And if you have any questions in the chat, anything you want to know, please ask. Pedro said 5-pin DIN was common in audio devices since the 1950s. I had a cassette recorder from the 70s that had a DIN 5 audio output. So yeah, probably was very popular at the time.
Yeah, also. And you have also a lot of microphone also using the 5 pins. Yeah.
Okay, so
regarding Python, I made some tests, and it was slightly more slow than Lua in my test. And also, don't forget that we have to make it work on a microcontroller. So I was lucky to find a project. I can't remember where it was on GitHub. Someone would try to make a kind of light Lua that would be able to run on a microcontroller with the little RAM and memory we have on a microcontroller, because this is something you have to take in account. All your scripts would have to be on the RAM of the microcontroller. So yeah, this was also a very important way of thinking about what language should be the one.
George asked, is the live available now? If not, when will it be?
So it's not available now. It's still a prototype. Most of the hardware is done, I guess. Now I'm happy with the way the prototype is working. Now most of the energy I'm giving to the project is about the software. So I will be able a little bit later to show you how the software looks, and it was a surprise for me, but yeah, definitely the software was more complex to do than the hardware, definitely. So yeah, I thought about having the hardware in 6 months and the software in 3 months, and no, like you said, it is 3 years, but because the software is so complex to develop.
Okay, so can you show us the software, how you edit the live box?
Yeah, let me send a request to share my screen. And let me tell me if you see.
Yes, we're seeing.
Okay, so what you have here is it's a web interface that you can already start to use if you want, if you are curious. If you go to my website, l1v3.net/b0x for box, you can already start to use it. Of course, I don't recommend using it for real stuff. It's an early prototype, but it is using web MIDI. And so that means the MIDI is really going through the interface, so you can test this interface by plugging USB devices directly to the interface. So just to explain to you how it looks, you've got on the left a representation of the box, and as I speak right now, I have one of my live box connected to my computer, and let me click here. So when I click on this button now, this is everything going through my real hardware box will be taken in account by the interface. So that's why you've got all the 5 inputs and the 5 outputs here. On my live box, the hardware one, I've got this kind of controller connected to it. This is a controller I love so much from Firefox. So I will move some of the fader, and you will see what is going on. So here you can see that when I move, so my controller is connected to the input number 4, and when I move something, you can definitely see that there is something coming in the input number 4. And if I select this input now, I can see the route my MIDI messages are taking, and by default they go all of them to the output number 2 and number 3. This is something you can configure. If I double click on the inputs, I can define what would be the default outputs for every messages coming through. So here you've got all the outputs. So by default, the box is acting as a splitter. So basically here, the message coming in is cloned and sent to all the outputs at the same time. You can also filter. You can tell, for example, I don't need the clock, I don't need the CX going through, just to clean the messages coming in. You can block control changes, notes in, notes on, notes off, after touch, etc., etc. So this is basically for each input you can define the basic, the default behavior. for all the MIDI messages coming through. But what is interesting is when you start putting in the middle of the path some rules to change the behavior of the messages you're receiving. So here I created some presets. I created one called reverse CC, but you can create, of course, obviously you can create your own presets. And the idea behind this is that I hope that one day the community will be able to create presets that you will be able to use. So some of them will like to code some presets, and some of you guys won't have to code, but only use the preset made by the community. So here, let me drag this one. So you see, it's very simple. You take your preset, you put it in the path. And now, when I move something, the preset is taking the MIDI message, control of the MIDI message. And if you want to see what does this rule, so it is called reverse CC, because it will take a control change value and will reverse its value as an output. So here I've got a graphic representation of the MIDI message coming in and the MIDI message coming out. You see? So this is a very simple preset just made to reverse some control change value. But you could imagine doing far more. I will show you a little bit later. So by default, all the MIDI messages will be taken in account, because here you have this condition by default that is saying true. So that means every time a MIDI message is coming in, this rule will be applied. But of course, I'm pretty sure you don't want all the MIDI message to be triggered by this rule. So here you can type Lua code. That will be a new condition. And because perhaps you don't know how to code, I created a MIDI learn button. So here, for example, I can tell, if I click on learn, I can select the type of data, MIDI data I want to take in account. So I will take the channel in account, the type of message, and the value of the data. And if I move something, the system is writing the code for you. So here, my condition is every time there is a control change having the 11 value on the MIDI channel number 14, that means this rule will be triggered. So here, if I move the right one, and if I move another one, you see that it doesn't go through because the condition is not respected. In my case, it's because the MIDI channel is different. So if I want to remove the MIDI channel of the condition, I simply click on learn, remove the channel, move something, and now you see that the condition is only the control change and the 11 value. So that means now all the fader I'm moving on my controller is triggering this thing. But if I move something else, now it doesn't take in account this rule. So you see, it's not that complex. You drag and drop a rule, you create a condition to be triggered with, and that's it. And you can accumulate as many rules as you want. And I didn't have to synchronize my box to the interface. What you see here is exactly what the box will be able to do standalone. I don't have to send a new firmware to the box. It's all going in the background. And now if I unplug my box and use it in my setup, it will work exactly as it was expected.
Yeah.
Okay, so far?
What you're doing here, it's something, for example, in a certain situation, I wanted to use one knob to control many parameters at the same time, and one would be inversed, and it would affect different parameters in my synths. And for that, I would have to create a Max for Live device. So that's something that I understand more. So I would have my controller with my Arduino, and then a Max for Live device that would do whatever I wanted. But that would be, I think, impossible to do with only hardware devices. And that's exactly what you can do now with your device without needing
Exactly.
a computer, right?
Exactly. The Max for Live example is a good one because definitely you could do it using Max for Live, but as a hardware box, no, you can't. You can't today. Yeah. So, what is behind these presets? Every preset you are drag and on the path is open source. So that means you can see, and this is where the Lua is written. So you got Lua here for the condition, triggering the rule, but also the code triggered and running each time is over there. And just to show you that it's very easy to understand how it works. Here, for example, I created a variable called value that will take the data number 2 of the MIDI message, right? And so that means at some point I will keep this value in memory. I'm creating a new value that I'll instantiate as 0. And you can see this thing over there, the three dots, 3 dash, etc., etc. This is something I can do very quickly. Like for example here, if I create a new variable up equals 0, and if I do the 3 thingy, it will offer me a way to display this value. In fact, so here I can select bar, and now if I go back to the screen, I have a new bar.
Yeah,
see, so
that would be my question. How you're doing the GUI, because you had the sliders, and I was like, well, yeah, how the sliders are appearing. That's really nice.
yeah, so exactly. So you simply create a variable, and you explain to the system using this is the in Lua. This is the way you comment. You do a commenting on the code, but I add an extra step on the comments, and it will interpret all the thing on the right written for you. So that means, for example, here you got label, my field name. Let's call it Toto. And if you go here, it will change the name of the variable. So it will help you better understand what is going on. And then after that, after you created the variables, but you can update the variables. Here, for example, I created a function that calls map, which is very simple to understand. You take a value in entry, and you will explain between 0 and 127, you map the value to 127 to 0. So that means it will reverse the value between these borders to these borders. So yeah, definitely mapping values is something we do all the time using MIDI. So I created a function to help you do that. And if you want to access this function, you simply have to start typing MIDI, then dot, and it will give you all the things you can use. For example, if you want to forward a message, or if you want to send a MIDI message, you select send, and then the system will tell you that you define the number of the output, the type of message you are sending, the value of the data 1, the value of the data 2, and the MIDI channel. So there is a lot of help to help you write the code. And if you don't know how it works, you simply have to open another preset that was already made, and you can read it. It's very easy to understand that at some point here, I'm sending a MIDI message to the output number 1, and the message I'm sending is the original message I just received. And to the output number 2, I'm sending the new value that was reversed. So that's why when I move something, you can definitely see at the bottom of the screen that there are 2 messages sent, one in the output number 1, which is the original value I just received, and one to the output number 2, which is the new one I just computed.
Yeah, if you know Arduino already, if you can code in the Arduino, it's going to be pretty easy to learn how to code in Lua, right?
Yeah. So I definitely understand that some of you guys would tell I'm not a programmer, I won't be able to do that. So that's why I wanted this interface to be a web interface. So for the community to be able to create new presets and share them with everyone.
And so you're using Lua both in the because you have a firmware running in the board in the Tinsy, and you have the web editor. What is the difference between both? How are you running the web editor and how they communicate?
So this is a good question because I was thinking about at some point how do I make communicate the hardware to the with the computer, and the very simple answer was MIDI. So in fact, the interface is made with JavaScript and has a Lua interpreter inside of the browser. I was lucky to find a project on the internet having Lua interpreted in JavaScript, so I used it. And in my hardware, I've got Arduino C language C, but also the Lua interpreter. And when my box is connected to the computer using the interface, in fact, what you see is the web browser taking control of the box, in fact. So when my box is plugged, my box is kind of silent when it is plugged. And every MIDI coming inside the box is forwarded through the USB cable. And that's why you have a kind of illusion that this is the box responding, but this is the web browser. And every time you change a script, it is sent in the background using MIDI to the box. That's why it is an ongoing process all the time. Every time you type something, the code is sent to the box. So that's why you don't have to synchronize, or you don't have to submit a new firmware to the box. You simply unplug it and it works.
That's a very nice solution. Very, very interesting.
I didn't have the ID the first time.
Huh?
As you can, I didn't have the ID the very first time, as you can imagine. But going forward, I was asking myself, how can I make them communicate? And I was told me that I'm silly. Of course, I can use MIDI because this is exactly what I'm creating right now. This is a MIDI box communicating using the MIDI protocol.
So a lot of people that are trying to develop a product, my students that are developing a MIDI controller, or simply for them, they ask me, how can I create an editor? How can I program my Arduino? Not exactly through a web browser, but through an editor that's not the Arduino IDE. That's something that you can just put there. I'm using pins 2, 3, and 4, and I have X many buttons. I did something a couple months ago, which is a code generator. I made an interface that you do just that. You type the pins, the number of buttons, potentiometers, etc. But it will generate you the code, and then you have to paste the code in the Arduino. So it's easier than coding the Arduino, but you still have the step of uploading the code, etc. So what would you say that would be the steps for someone to at least try to learn how to do something similar that you are doing, that one can just skip the step of going to the IDE and pasting the code and uploading, something that you can just create your editor online and program from there?
Yeah, it's not an easy one. The choice I made regarding the web browser is because at first I am a web based programmer, so it was the obvious reason that I chose to do it, and also because I wanted my website to become a community driven, so that's why I chose using this. But what is pretty cool with that is HTML, CSS, and JavaScript are very common language today, and they are very easy to learn. So you could do very basic stuff right now, and very basic stuff, but very cool looking. I know that creating an executable using other languages is quite hard to have something that is cool on the screen. So using HTML, CSS, and JavaScript is a good way to start and having something very cool on the screen. I know that you can also compile HTML websites, CSS, and JavaScript into executable softwares. So definitely could be a way to start. But at some point, you would have to, the most important thing would be you have to define a kind of protocol to communicate between the software and your box and your objects. And then you have to think about Wi-Fi, you have to think about Bluetooth, you have to think about the cable. Definitely, the more complex part of it is to be able for the software to communicate with your box. And if I'm thinking about, I've got for example a controller, a launchpad. Perhaps some of you have one, Novation launchpad. The configuration software is web-based, and using a web MIDI for me to be able to control it. So definitely in the music industry, and if you are making something related to MIDI, this is a quite easy way to make your software communicate with your box, with your project, because of web MIDI and because of the fact that you can use USB MIDI.
Okay, so you're sending just one thing. I think we lost your video again of your camera. Your camera, yes.
Sorry about that. I'm sorry about that.
No problem. So so you're really sending MIDI from the browser to the board? Is that correct?
Exactly.
Okay.
Yeah, definitely. Exactly like a proper device would do. Directly to my box. Everything was made inside my box to receive MIDI, so yeah, definitely receiving MIDI. And because it is USB MIDI, there is a big difference between USB MIDI and the normal MIDI. Is that USB MIDI, you can communicate what device is talking to you. Using the standard MIDI through DIN or TRS, you don't have the name of the device talking to you. You know that you're receiving some MIDI through that channel and with that value. But using USB MIDI, you know exactly that this device is talking to you. So my website has a device ID, and my box has a device ID. So when I send MIDI through USB, I know that I'm receiving, I am the box, and I'm receiving MIDI from my web interface. So that's why I'm not messing around with the MIDI. My MIDI messages is not going through everywhere. It is intercepted by my box, knowing that it is intended to update the box.
Gotcha. Okay, very nice, and yeah, very complex. Yeah. Not an easy task at all.
No.
And I'm still in the process of trying to figure this out. But anyways, I don't know if you'd like to talk about anything else in the editor, because I would like also to talk a little bit more about the hardware.
Yeah, just can show you a very real use case I'm using in my setup. In my hardware setup, I've got an Octatrack, and I'm using my my controller, the Firefox, to control the volumes of the Octatrack. And I didn't tell you that, I don't think, but I am improvising while I'm performing. So I wanted my box to help me have shortcuts to do very quick stuff without having to think too much. So here is an example of what I can do here. So for example, I've got a rule, you see moving faders. So every time I'm moving a fader, I'm controlling the volumes of my tracks. So this is very basic. Then also I can detect that I'm clicking on some button on my fader. So here you can see that I'm arming some of my tracks. So when I'm preparing my break, I can start preparing the tracks I want my break to run. And then when I move my crossfader, you can see that with one move, I change the volume of all the tracks that were prepared. So, and you can see the reverse control change I showed you at the beginning, definitely occurring here. So one move of the crossfade is changing the volume of every tracks I just prepared for my break. So now I am in my break, and because my fader, my crossfader is completely on the right, there is a new rule that if I arming new tracks, if I move the volume, you can see now, you don't see the volume moving here because I silently block the move of the volume of my tracks just for me to be able to prepare the volumes I want. So normally the volume would go to the octa track, but it is blocked now by my box. And now if I move back my fader, my crossfader to the left, it will put the new volumes of my new tracks to manage my drop. So just to show you a very basic example of what now I can achieve that my fader, my controller is not able to do, and that my octa track is not able to do. And they can do that now because of the box they have between them.
Wow, that's amazing. That's really mind-blowing. I guess you can spend many hours digging into the software and finding new solutions, but the thing is, you have a necessity, something in your setup that you really want to do, and you can just go there and do it. So it's a real life scenario, solving real life problems. That's really nice. And
Exactly.
so
You are not now closed to what your controllers can do and your sense can do. You can open considerably what they are able to do now.
okay, so yeah, I mean we could spend many hours just in the software, but tell us a little bit about the hardware. Can you show us? Do you have any PCB? The PCB of the controller.
No.
Okay, don't worry. So just
I've got some pictures I sent you, I guess.
yeah,
in the one.
do you have the pictures there, or do you want me to show?
I don't have it on my side.
Okay, I'm gonna grab it here while I talk. So I would like to know what would be the so first the enclosure of the is it 3D printed? Did you design yourself? How was the process of designing the actual enclosure?
Yeah, so it was something new to me because I didn't have any 3D printer before that. So it was a good excuse for me to start testing it. So I learned Fusion 360, and the very first thing you have to do is to take the model of your PCB in 3D. Most of the software helping you create the PCB will allow you to have a 3D version of it.
Okay,
So
I'm gonna put in the screen here while you talk some pictures.
No issue. So this is basically the very first prototype. But you would take the 3D version of the file of the PCB you created, import it in the Fusion 360, and create a box around it. Then you print it. It won't be cool enough. It won't be okay. It won't work. And then you update a little bit the size of the things, and reprint it and start again until everything is right. So yeah, you can see on this picture how many tested I made for the previous. This is the previous prototype. This is the last version of the previous prototype using the kit I found on the internet. And this is the new PCB. One of the so yeah, the green one, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So this is the new PCB. So here you have everything. You got the TRS at the back on a special perpendicular plate. You've got on the right also the place for the tin C2B, and you've got the five black thing on the PCB board are the optocoupler that you are putting in front of the MIDI inputs, and you've got also some plugs I made, for example, to if you want to plug a LED strip, because just for fun, I made possible to control using MIDI the light bulbs RGB bulbs of a LED strip, and I'm using it in my setup, for example, to light my hardware, and so I can control using MIDI every piece of the setup and the light bulb. So yeah, definitely this is the last version of the prototype of the PCB. That was it is very easy now. Huh? You can you have softwares that can help you create the PCB very in an easy way, and you've got a lot of manufacturers that help you create 5 instances of your prototype. You send it to China, and they go back in a few weeks for you to be able to test that everything is fine.
So, how are you designing the PCBs? You're designing yourself, and so you have some SMT components. Are you ordering the PCBs with the components soldered, or you're hand soldering? And what are your plans for the future when you have your fully prototype ready and you want to, I don't know if you want to mass produce it, but how are your plans to making the PCBs and also the enclosure?
Yeah, so the PCB is made using KiCad, which is a very known software. You've got by default you can use automatic routing if you don't want to too much think about it, but at some point it is preferable to do it manually. Once it's done, you can send your schematics to a manufacturer like PCBWay or I forgot the name of the other one. So you give them the list of the components you require on different files, and then the SMD components would be are put in place by them, definitely. Some of the components that are easy to put in place will be put in place by me, but for example, the last prototype has the LED light bulbs that will light and show the different MIDI messages that will be put in place directly on the PCB board. So they would be put in place directly by the manufacturer. So most of the components will be put in place by them, and then some of them can be put in place by me. I hope the less is the better, because I don't want to spend hours doing that stuff manually. But at this stage, it will be definitely handmade. I mean, I'm not talking about mass production because I don't know. I know it's a niche product. I know that, for example, if I compare with the Blockas MIDI Hub, they don't do that much units, so it will not definitely make me rich, and so I'm pretty sure it will be manual handled, and I will sell them on my website, because I was going to Super Booths and Sendfest and some events like that. I am in contact with some distributors that are interested by the product. So we will see if there is some buyers that will ask me to do more, and I will have to especially find a way to create more units. But at this stage, no. And at the very beginning, it will be 3D printed for the enclosure. But I already started to discuss with some manufacturers to be able to create real metal enclosure. So we will see. I will be able to activate that if the project is a success. But at the beginning, it will be very small units handled manually.
Yeah, what I have found is that the most expensive thing to do and sometimes the most complex thing to get it done is the enclosure. The PCB is quite, I mean, only the PCB without the SMD component soldered is quite cheap. Like in JLC PCB or PCBWay, you can get small PCBs, 5 units, they have a coupon, you can get it for like $2.
Yeah. So and even with the SMD on it, it's very cheap. Huh?
Yeah, so
Even,
but the enclosure can get expensive, right? First, the 3D printing takes a lot of time, and I don't know about the price of the material, but since it takes a lot of time, it is expensive, and for you to make I wouldn't say mass production, but something like that, you have to have a mold, and for that you have to buy a minimum quantity, and sometimes I don't have experience with that, but I've talked to people that at least 500 units or 1,000 units. So you have to have a lot of money up front to get an enclosure with a low cost. So for that, you have a high risk. So then you're gonna have to have an investor or something like a crowdfunding. So I was going to ask you, what are your plans for launching? When do you think, when you feel it's ready enough, because you can always make it better. So, but like, when do you think it's gonna be ready for launching, and what are your plans for launching?
I hope it will be ready next year. I know I'm optimistic when I say that because, like I said, this box is aimed to be central in a setup, and I don't want this box to crash in any way. So at least at the minimum, I want it to be reliable. Even if it's not perfect, even if it's the Lua language won't be 100% used, etc. And I'm pretty sure that many of the users will have some very cool idea that I will have to implement. But at least I want it to be reliable. I don't want to be the cause of a live act being stopped in the middle of it. So that's why I'm very intended to have it the most reliable possible. I expect at the beginning of the next year we'll be able to send some beta testing boxes to some of the beta tester users. If you are curious, in the chat there is a Discord server you can connect right now, and this will be definitely the place I will announce beta testing and when the box will be available. I'm thinking about a crowdfunding or so, but to have a crowdfunding which is successful, you pretty much have to create the community before it. So I'm thinking about it, but it's definitely something that is interesting to at least to check how many pre-orders. It's like pre-orders, in fact. How many pre-orders you are able to create, and you don't do that for nothing. So yeah, definitely, it's behind in my mind. But I have also a friend who made several crowdfundings and successful ones. So definitely, it will help me not to do some mistakes and at the beginning, and to expect have the crowdfunding works on the very start.
Yeah. So yeah, it seems you have everything planned as much as you can have. So I'll ask you, can you write in the chat any relevant link, like the Discord, or I don't know if you have a mailing list, a website. I put the website in the video description, but any link you want to put there. And just let me see some comments. Luis said, a good feature would be a timing automation like you press a button and some CC values goes up or goes from X to Y. This would help to navigate between different parts of the song.
Yeah, that's definitely something that some already people ask me, having some stuff related to clocks. There is one thing I'm not sure I would be able to do is being a clock myself. I'm not sure that my box would be able to be a clock, but I want it at least to rely on the clocks coming from on the inputs. So definitely a good idea, but yeah, definitely don't want to take the path of being a clock myself. This is another product. Definitely.
Yeah, this kind of automation thing is something that when I was doing that Max for Live device, that I would use one knob to control multiple parameters. That's something I implemented too, because at least in Max there's an easy way for you to go from one preset to the other. For example, you set your volumes in one preset, and then you set the other volumes in another preset, and then you can just crossfade between the two presets, and also you can set a timer. So that would be, easy to do in Max, if you know Max. And I think that would be quite difficult to do in the Arduino or coding, but I'm sure it's something that it's totally doable in your side and very nice.
Yeah, it's definitely something you can do. The clock aspect of it is the more complex one.
Yeah.
If you want to respect the BPM or whatever, this is important to rely on the clock coming from outside, because the microcontroller is doing so much thing, interpreting Lua and stuff like this. If I add on top of it the fact that you have to compute the clock, wow, yeah, I'm pretty sure it would be a mess.
Yeah, harder than it looks.
Yeah.
So Luis, very cool project. Congrats. Thank you, Luis,
Thanks.
for being in the chat too. Really great, George. Really great product. Something I've definitely been curious about if something like this was out there. Can't wait for general availability. Subscribed to your newsletter. Gotta run. This was great. Timmy, this useful box needs definitely some CV outputs in future versions. What are your thoughts?
Yeah. I know. Yeah, perhaps another box. Yeah, definitely. This is not the first time someone is asking me. I asked my friend if the TRS was perhaps able to become both. You could have a button switching between CV gates and MIDI, but yeah, it starts to be quite complex, and you don't want to mess with high voltages because the voltages are not the same, and you don't want to fry the box if you made a mistake using the switch. So yeah, it's not easy, but definitely I know that someone asked me to put a DMX input also to control lights. So yeah, definitely version 2, version 3.
Yeah, and with CV you'd need a DAC for each output input.
Yeah, and
output.
you want to control the CV, and you want to control the gates in different way, and yeah, it's another project.
Yeah, but yeah, interesting the idea of getting your whole framework and software and just and make a box with the same functionality, but one box is CV, one box is MIDI, and one box is DMX.
Exactly. That's the idea. If I see that the first version, full MIDI, is working well, definitely plenty ways of expansion it.
Yeah. Then 3 box can get you rich, maybe.
Yeah, maybe. I get bought by a.k.a. or Novation.
Yeah. That'd be cool.
Why not?
Let me see. Pedro asks, is the hardware open source? So what is open source? What is not? What are your plans?
for now, the hardware is not open source, but I'm thinking about it, and definitely, if I'm doing a crowdfunding and if I see that I can reach a certain amount of fundraised, I would open the idea of doing it open source. But before that, I have to check some things because I don't want my project and all the years I made just to be copied by Chinese guys and creating their own box in one day. So yeah, I definitely have to check what type of licensing I could use. But definitely, I know that at the very beginning, all the scripting codes would be 100% open source. Of course, the hardware, it might be, yeah.
Perfect. Lexi Marie got here, I guess, a few minutes ago, and she said, I think it's she, that your audio was too low, but it's not your fault. For me, your audio is perfect, but I think that because I'm getting the audio from my computer to OBS and to the stream, it got a little bit low, but it seems everybody is able to listen. But it's something that I'll try to fix in the next time. But anyways, I'm sorry, Marie, to disappoint you. But anyways, Pascal, I think that, let me just change this view so both here, yeah. I think maybe we are good for today. It was an amazing talk, really, really nice. I really enjoyed it. Like, I learned a lot. We could still talk a bunch more, and I want to make myself available for anything you want, need. If you want to come back to the channel, anytime you want me to, I don't know, feature your products, I would be more than happy to do it. And
cool.
What else you want to say? How people can? I don't know if you put that in the chat, but feel free to add there. And I'm also can add it the video description to add any relevant information you want. So it's with you.
It was pretty cool. Thank you for having me. I will ping you when some stuff are relevant. If I reach a new steps that could be interested for your community, and I put my website on the chat. This is definitely the central point. If you want to reach me, you can have access to the Discord server. You can have access to the Facebook page on which I'm doing more. Instagram less, but definitely on Facebook and on the Discord server.
Nice. So thank you so much. And if you are here watching this video, I also gonna make my little promotion. I also left in the links in the description the links for my courses if people want to learn to build their MIDI controllers. I also have a KiCad course. So if you want to make a PCB. So anyways, our links are there. Thank you so much for being here. And I'll see you in the next video, see you in the next live. Thank you, Pascal. And good luck in your projects. Let me know when we can talk again. Okay, so bye-bye.
Bye.
Ciao.